Hello everyone. Today we are going to continue the chapter number 5, that is molecular basis of inheritance. Today is the theory part 5, and this we are going to cover this NCERT session 5.3, 5.4 and 5.4.1. Basically it is about RNA, and then it is about that that DNA is a semi-conservative in nature. So let's get started for today's class. Disclaimer. Then what is going to be today's learning objective? So first we will understand that, initially in starting people thought that RNA is the genetic material. So we will understand why they have thought that RNA's role as first genetic material, and then what happened and what not, because we know by now we know that DNA is the genetic material. Then we will explain the semi-conservative DNA replication process. As I told you that DNA is semi-conservative in nature. So we will understand what the semi-conservative means and how this DNA replicate to form this semi-conservative DNA. Then we will describe the experiment which Michelson and Stahl has performed and which has proved that DNA is semi-conservative in nature. Then we will also understand this nitrogen isotope labeling method, that how this Michelson and Stahl in this Michelson and Stahl experiment they have used the nitrogen isotope. So we will understand about those isotope and why they have that isotope labeling method in their experiment. Then whatever the result has came from this experiment after analyzing the centrifugation result, okay, and we will study about that and we will see how they have proved that DNA do the semi-conservative replication. Now, if we talk about today's index, the first will be is the RNA world, which is 5.3 session of NCERT. Then it will be replication, the semi-conservative mode, which is 5.4 session of NCERT. And specifically in this we are going to study today is the only one subsession of it, that is 5.4.1, that is Michelson and Stahl experiment, which they have performed in 1958. Then there will be summary. We will conclude our class and we will conclude that how the whatever we have studied in today's class. Then there will be some NCERT based question that we will discuss. Then there are some keynotes. And at last, there will be some interesting questions that we are going to, that you guys you're going to solve yourself. And at last, you guys know that what we do, we solve some DPP questions. So, first we will talk about the RNA world. So, at the RNA world is the NCERT session 5.3. So, what is RNA is doing dual role. So, what are the dual role? What are the two roles which RNA has been performing? So, the first role is that they're acting as genetic material, and second, they are functioned as a catalyst. So, this was the preconceived notion. This was the thing that people used to think about RNA at first, that it acting as genetic material and its function as a catalyst. But after when it got proved that DNA is the genetic material, so the thing that RNA is a genetic material has been disproven. But let's see what was the initial thought about this RNA. First was that this RNA has a dual role. It is acting as genetic material and also functioning as catalyst. We know catalyst is something that help in fasting any chemical reaction or any reaction. So this is the RNA structure, and we know that what RNA consists of. So RNA is the like chain of the nucleotide. Which nucleotide? The nucleotide which has ribose, phosphate group, and nitrogenous bases. And the nitrogenous base consists of either adenine and guanine or cytosine and uracil. Next, so firstly, then now we will talk about each and every both the points. The first point was that they acted as the genetic material. So it was thought that initially people think that RNA is considered as first genetic material, that RNA is our first genetic material. But evidence has suggested what? That life processes, which is metabolism, translation, splicing, everything is revolving around what? Is revolving around RNA. So this is a picture which is showing that RNA in the form of a ribozyme, in the form of an enzyme, is able to replicate itself without the help of additional enzyme. Means RNA is able to self-replicate in the form of what? In the form of ribozymes. And that's why people used to think it is the first genetic material. And all the processes like metabolism, translation, splicing, they all are revolving around what? They are all revolving around RNA. Then RNA, if you talk about RNA in metabolism, so we know that RNA as ribozyme helps in catalyzing the reaction. RNA as regulatory RNAs controls many pathways. When it comes to gene control, it helps in what? It helps in enzyme expression. And for homeostasis, its function is like, if its role is of maintaining homeostasis, what is its function of? Its function is of energy and nutrient balance. Now we talk about RNA in metabolism. Now let's see what is the role of RNA in translation. So we know that DNA has to transcribe into mRNA to form what? To form protein. Okay. So first of all, there are three types of RNA we are talking about here. First is the mRNA, that is the messenger RNA. What is a messenger RNA? It is a single-stranded molecule and it carries what? It carries genetic information from DNA to ribosome. Ribosome is place where protein synthesis is happening. Now, what is tRNA? tRNA is the transfer RNA and it helps in what? It helps in to deliver the amino acid. It brings the amino acid to ribosome. rRNA, that is ribosomal RNA, it helps in what? It helps in the formation of ribosomes. So these are the three types of the RNA. As I told, messenger RNA. Messenger RNA is what? It is a single-stranded molecule and it contains what? It contains genetic information. Its function is means it carries genetic information from DNA to ribosome. Then this is the ribosomal RNA, that is to what? It helps in making what? It helps in making ribosome. And the transfer RNA, tRNA, it helps in what? It delivers, it transport amino acid. And we know that the chain of amino acid is called what? Chain of amino acid is called protein. Okay. Now next its role is in splicing. So let's see what is its role in its splicing. So if we talk about splicing, the role of RNA is what? First, pre-mRNA processing. So we know that when this mRNA has been transcribed from DNA, what happens? It has both. It has exon also, it has intron also. What is exon? Exon is the part which is going to code for protein, whereas intron do not code for protein. So we have to process this pre-RNA into mature mRNA in doing what? In removing this intron, which is what? Which is non-coding part. If we talk about second process, which is the alternative splicing. What is alternative splicing? So a single gene can generate multiple mRNA transcripts. Okay. So a single gene can generate what? Multiple mRNA transcripts, which forms protein isomers and helps in what? Bringing protein variation. So we talked about pre-mRNA processing and alternative splicing. Now, what is RNA modification? So we have to do some post modification. And what are those modifications? We call it capping and tailing. So we have this, what happened in this capping. So there has the 5' end of mRNA. What happens to it? The 5' end modifies, like how? By addition of a guanine nucleotide. And what is this tailing? Tailing is the addition of poly A tail or at the 3' end. So this is all thing about metabolism and splicing and translation where which all revolve around what? Revolve around RNA. What is the limitation of the RNA? First of all, it is very highly reactive and that's why it is acting as catalyst. It is unstable, being a catalyst lead to the need for a more stable genetic material. So we know that the RNA is very unstable. Why? Because there is a presence of 2' OH group at it in its what? In its sugar, in its ribose. Okay, so that's the reason it is very unstable and it is very reactive. And this is one of the biggest and major limitation of RNA. So then what happened? There has been evolution of DNA from where? From RNA. Developed through, how it got developed? It developed through chemical modification. And DNA is definitely more stable than RNA. It has a double-stranded structure, has complementary strands, resists changes by involving a process of repair. So here we can see that how the evolution of DNA happened from RNA. And what the difference between this DNA and RNA? It is a double-stranded structure. It is a single-stranded structure. It do not have 2' OH in its sugar. That's why it is called deoxyribose, where it do have 2' OH sugar. Its sugar form, that is ribose. And then we know about this adenine, cytosine, guanine, whereas thymine, which is one of the pyrimidine, is present in DNA rather than uracil, and it is also what? It is adding stability to it. Okay. Now, till now we have studied about DNA and RNA and all those things, their chemical structure, everything about them, that why they are more stable and all those things. Now it's time for what? It's time for understand what is DNA replication and how it happens, what is its nature and everything. Okay. So DNA replication, let's see the Watson and Crick's original insight. Watson and Crick proposed the double helix structure of DNA in 1953. So Watson and Crick developed this double helix structure of DNA in 1953, and we have studied all the properties of this double helix structure of DNA in one of our classes. Along with the structure, they also suggested a scheme for DNA replication. So with this structure, they have also gave us a scheme for DNA replication, told us this how this DNA replication take place. They have quoted a very famous line that it has not escaped our notice that specific pairing we have postulated immediately suggests a possible copying mechanism for the genetic material. So this line means that they said that it doesn't go unnoticed that the specific base pairing which they have told, like how this adenine, adenine go and base pairs with thymine and guanine with cytosine, all those things. So they told that they didn't unnotice this thing, that this base pairing itself giving a possible copying mechanism, that how this copying mechanism happened in the genetic material. So this is a picture of Watson and Crick with their DNA model. So now we will understand the semi-conservative replication scheme. The two strands of the parent DNA molecule separate. Each separated strand acts as a template for the synthesis of a new complementary strand. after replication is complete, each new DNA molecule consists of one parental strand and one newly synthesized strand. So, if you talk about what is this semi-conservative replication scheme, so it is very simple. It is simple in a way that what happens? So, there is definitely two strands of DNA. Okay. So, they are telling that the two strands of the parent DNA, they separate. Okay. And now each strand will act as what? Each strand will act as a template and synthesize a new complementary strand. And after this replication is completed, what will happen? This new DNA molecule will consist of one parent strand and one newly synthesized strand. This picture we can understand this more properly, that we can see that there is a DNA, that is double stranded DNA, double helix DNA. Now, this strand, what happened to the DNA molecule? It got separated. This red one, which is the parental strand, it got separated. And now it is acting as what? It is acting as template. And now what will happen? New complementary strand will synthesize from this template. And now you guys can see that from this one parental DNA, we have two newly synthesized DNA. In this two DNA, what is specific? That one is parental DNA, that is one DNA came from parents, and other DNA come from what? Other is newly synthesized. So this is the semi-conservative replication scheme which Watson and Crick model has, where they have given. So now every model needs some evidence, needs some proof. So there has been a experimental proof of this also, that the DNA is semi-conservative in nature. So let's see what is the experiment. So Matthew Michelson and Franklin Stell experiment, and this happened in 1958. What was the objective of this experiment? The objective of this experiment was to experimentally prove the semi-conservative mode of DNA replication. The organism which they have used is E. coli. Now, let's see point by point that what they did, what was the methodology. So now what they did, before that you guys have to understand that they use nitrogen isotope. What are isotopes? Isotope is one of two or more species of atoms of a chemical element with the same atomic number and position in the periodic table. Okay, these are the isotopes. So in this experiment, they have used the nitrogen isotope, and that is 15N and 14N. Okay, 15N is the heavy and 14N is light. So now what they did, so they grew E. coli, okay, for so many generations in a medium with 15 nitrogen H4Cl. Okay, that is ammonium chloride. Now what will happen, because they have grew this E. coli with this 15 nitrogen isotope, now what will happen, their DNA will, as I told this, what is this ammonium chloride N15? It is a heavy isotope of nitrogen. So now what will happen, because they have grown this E. coli from many generations in this heavy isotope of nitrogen, now its DNA will contain this 15N, that is the heavy isotope of nitrogen. Their DNA will contain. This figure I will explain at last when I will explain all the methodology. So this is the phase 1. Now, in phase 1, so what was the result? As I told, that the N15, that is heavy isotope of nitrogen, was completely incorporated into the newly synthesized DNA. The DNA became completely labeled with heavy nitrogen, means they are growing that E. coli for so many generations in this heavy isotope of nitrogen only. So now what will happen? Their DNA will completely be labeled with heavy nitrogen. This is the phase 1. So we have to now understand that what was the significance of this labeling. So if we will talk about the significance of the labeling, these labeled DNA molecules could distinguish from the normal DNA. The centrifugation in the cesium chloride density gradient separate those labeled DNA from the normal. So now what will happen? Because we told that now this DNA of E. coli has heavy isotope of nitrogen. So now what will happen? We can distinguish this labeled DNA molecules from the other normal molecules. And how we distinguish this? By centrifugation in the cesium chloride density gradient. Now what will happen? Because of their difference in their density, they will separate from this. They will separate the labeled DNA from the normal DNA. Okay. So that's the reason they have cultured that E. coli in a culture where there is presence of heavy isotope of nitrogen. This was the phase 1. In phase 1, what they did? They have cultured E. coli for a very long time in a medium where there is presence of heavy isotope of nitrogen, that is 15N. And what will happen because of this now what will be the result of that? The result will be that its DNA is now fully incorporated with this heavy isotope of nitrogen. The significance of that, the importance of this is that now based on the density gradient, they can separate this labeled DNA from the normal DNA. So now let's see what happened then. So now what they did in the second phase, now we know that there has been like E. coli whose DNA has been incorporated with this heavy isotope of nitrogen. Now what they did, they took that E. coli with the heavy whose DNA has heavy isotope of nitrogen and transferred those bacteria to a medium with normal ammonium chloride where there the isotope is normal one, that is 14N. So now then what will happen? After that they took sample at various interval as the cell multiplied. We know that the E. coli multiply after every 20 minutes. So what they did, after each and every interval they have this taken the sample and then they did this centrifugation and then they got to know that what is the density or not. That we will talk later. First understand this, that what they did in the phase 2, they took that E. coli whose DNA is now incorporated with heavy isotope of nitrogen and transferred to the media with what? With normal isotope of nitrogen, that is 14NH4Cl. And after each and time interval, means after every 20 minutes, they are taking those samples. DNA was then extracted and separated using cesium chloride density gradient centrifugation. Means now what will happen? They will take the DNA from those samples which they have took after every 20 minutes time interval and separate them what? Using cesium chloride density gradient centrifugation. What they observe? Zero generation. When before transfer, what was there? The DNA showed only heavy band, that is heavy isotope of nitrogen. After first generation, means after 20 minutes, when they have put that E. coli with heavy isotope of nitrogen into the medium where there is presence of this normal isotope of nitrogen, what they understood that, but they have seen that DNA showed hybrid and intermediate density. This was after transfer from 15N to 14N medium. This ruled out the conservative replication. So here, now I'll explain this figure. So what happened? When they have taken that, as I told, when they have transferred that heavy isotope of nitrogen to the normal isotope of nitrogen medium, before transfer, when means what you can call generation 0, what happened? There was only heavy band DNA, that is having both the DNA strand having what? This heavy isotope of nitrogen. But after first generation, means after 20 minutes, what happened? They have seen that now DNA is showing hybrid and intermediate density also. So here you guys can see when there is only only E. coli, when only E. coli when who has heavy isotope of nitrogen at 0 generation, it's like the density gradient is like heavy, like here, red you guys can see. After 20 minutes, now they have seen that this became intermediate. DNA show the intermediate and hybrid density, means it has 15N DNA as well as 14N DNA. Now, after 40 minutes, what will happen? Because now they are growing only in this normal isotope of nitrogen. Now, what will happen? For example, from here, you guys understand. Now, this red and green parent strand will separate. So, you assume this, that the red one separated here and green one separated here. And now what will happen? New DNA will be synthesized. And that new DNA will going to have the nitrogen isotope, normal nitrogen isotope only, that is 14N only. That's why after 40 generation, we will see 50% of hybrid and 50% of newly synthesized DNA. Newly synthesized DNA as in DNA who's having this normal isotope of nitrogen only. What happen if we will do after 60 minutes more? Then we will see 75% of the generation of the DNA is normal isotope nitrogen, whereas the 25 is the hybrid. So by this, they have understood this has given the result significance that DNA is semi-conservative in replication, not conservative. So what is conservative replication? So conservative replication has this idea that parent DNA will act as a strand, but it will remain intact. Okay, nothing will happen to this parent DNA. It will be remain intact, and then properly new or another new species of DNA will be created. But this thing has ruled out this conservative replication idea. What was the observation after second generation? As I told, DNA composition showed what? Two types. 50% was hybrid density and 50% was what? Light DNA. This ruled out also what? Dispersive replication. So what was this dispersive replication idea saying? A dispersive replication idea was this, like this, that this DNA, parent DNA strand will be in between of this newly synthesized strand. So this experiment also ruled out this dispersive replication. So what this experiment did, ruled out both the conservative replication, that parent DNA will remain intact and then and another new species of like DNA will be formed. This is also ruled out, as well as this dispersive replication, which says that parent DNA will be in between of this this new generated DNA. That also got ruled out. What remained intact? What did this experiment prove? That DNA is semi-conservative nature. Semi-conservative in nature is what? That the parent strand will get separate, and each strand do what? Each strand will act as template, and then there will be, according to this complementary base pairing thing, new strands will be synthesized. So this is what, if I will explain it like in this way, see, for example, this red one is what? Understanding this red one is heavy isotope and green one is normal isotope. Okay, we will, or you say light isotope. Okay, light isotope. So because it is semi-conservative, what will happen after 20 minutes? This red one, okay, this parent strand will separate. Means one strand, red strand will be here, another red strand will be here. Now a new DNA strand will be formed, which is complementary to this parent strand. And why it is green? Because this is forming where? It is generating where? It is synthesizing where? In the normal isotope. Okay, that's why it got generated. It got it complements its parent DNA. That's why both is hybrid. But now what happened after 40 minutes? Again, this parent strands has been separated. Now if it will separate, so understand here that one will be red strand, then other will be green strand. Again, one will be red strand and other will be green strand. And now this all four will act as what? The all four will act as template. And now a new DNA strand will synthesize. And all new DNA synthesizes why green? Because it is synthesizing in a medium where there is presence of light isotope of nitrogen. Okay, that's why it is showing 50% hybrid as well as 50% light. What if we have calculated after 60 minutes? So after 60 minutes, what will happen? 75% will be light DNA and 50% will be hybrid density. 25% will be hybrid density. Just like that. After 80 minutes, what happened? 12.5% will remain hybrid. Like this only. So what was the conclusion that has been made from this experiment? The conclusion is that the hybrid or intermediate density of DNA after first generation replication in first generation indicates what? That replication is not conservative. Because if it was conservative, what will happen? Parent DNA will be like this and a very new other new DNA will be synthesized. It didn't happen. It was hybrid. It has both. There's heavy isotope also and the normal isotope, light isotope also. 50% hybrid and 50% light density of DNA after second generation indicates what? That replication is not dispersal. It means replication doesn't happen like this, that the parent strand will be in between anywhere, disperse in between of the newly synthesized strand. So this is also not accepted. It got ruled out. The results perfectly match the prediction of what? The prediction of semi-conservative model. So here you guys can again understand it very nicely that what is conservative, what is semi-conservative and what is dispersive. So this blue one is what? This blue one is parental DNA. Okay. So according to conservative, what will happen? This parental DNA will, act as template, but other new this happened. Other newly synthesized DNA will, emerge from somewhere. So if it is like this, it is conservative. But this experiment has proved only the first generation is already proved what? That replication is not conservative. What was the semi-conservative? That first, that the parent strand will separate and, a newly synthesized strand will generate depending on the complementarity and all those things. So it shows like this. And what was dispersive? That this parent strand will be like this, and then in between somewhere, the newly DNA strand will be there, and in between somewhere, there will be presence of parent DNA. So this is also got ruled out with the help of the second generation result. After this, after Michelson and Stell has proved this semi-conservative nature of DNA in E. coli, other scientists also proved this experiment in the higher organisms. For example, Taylor and colleagues in 1958 did what? Did a similar experiment performed to prove what? The semi-conservative replication of DNA. They worked on which plant? That is Piscia faba, that is faba beans. They used what? Like here they have used this isotope of nitrogen, heavy and light. In this they have used the radioactive thymidine to detect distribution of newly synthesized DNA in the chromosome. So they have used a radioactive thymidine, and what they did with the help of this radioactive thymidine, they detect like what is the distribution of newly synthesized DNA in the chromosome. This experiment also proved that DNA in the chromosome also replicates semi-conservatively. So, by this experiment, what has been proved that DNA even in chromosome replicates semi-conservatively. So what was the summary of today's class? What we have learned in today's class? So we have learned first that there was a hypothesis which suggests that RNA was the first self-replicating molecule. RNA acts as both genetic material as well as the catalyst. It predates the DNA protein world. RNA can store information and catalyze reaction as well. Then, later we got to know that DNA is the genetic material. Why? Because RNA is not stable. It is very reactive. Then we have studied today the semi-conservative replication. What is the semi-conservative replication? That the parental DNA strand will separate during replication, and each strand will serve as what? Each strand will serve as template. And then the new complementary strands will synthesize on basis of what? On the basis of the space pairing method, where we know will bind to what? Complement for pyrimidine. Results in two identical DNA molecules. Now, then what was the Silson and Stahl experiment which they have performed in 1958? They proved that this DNA replication is semi-conservative. Used what? Used heavy and light nitrogen isotope, that is 15N and 15 and N14. Track DNA through what? Through DNA density through what? Through generations. Definitely showed each new strand has one old and one new strand. One the parental strand and one is the newly synthesized strand. So this was the summary of today's class. Now, let's go to the NCERT based questions. The first question is, in the RNA world hypothesis. So we have studied this RNA world hypothesis, we have studied that RNA played a dual role. Now we have to tell what dual role is RNA playing. First, it's helping in protein synthesis and DNA replication. Second, it is acting as genetic material and catalyst. Third, it is helping in energy storage and metabolism. Or fourth, it is helping in cell division or growth. Answer is, it is serving as what? It is serving as genetic material and catalyst. Why? Because initially we used to think that RNA served as the first genetic material, also acted as ribozyme, that is the RNA catalyst. Evidence shows life processes evolve around what? Around RNA. Next question says, the peptidyl transferase activity in ribosome is catalyzed by? Is it catalyzed by DNA? Is it catalyzed by protein? Or is it catalyzed by 23S rRNA, or it is catalyzed by tRNA, that is transfer RNA. And rRNA is what? Ribosomal RNA. Let's see the answer. Answer is 23S rRNA. So what does 23S rRNA do? It catalyzes the peptide bond formation. Important example of ribosome activity occurs during, when it occurs during protein synthesis. And this is the catalysis role of RNA. This is a figure showing what they enzyme, this RNA can, what kind, different type of RNA like mRNA and tRNA, which is bringing the amino acid to ribosome. So this is all about RNA. And what this 23S rRNA doing? It is catalyzing the peptide bond formation during the protein synthesis. Now, next question asks us, this Michelson and Stahl experiment used what? Did they use radioactive phosphorus? Did they use heavy nitrogen? Did they use radioactive carbon? Or did they use heavy hydrogen? So the answer is heavy nitrogen. Michelson and Stahl, to prove that the DNA has this semi-conservative in nature, they used heavy isotope of nitrogen, that is 15N, labeled NH4Cl, that is ammonium chloride, followed by transfer to what? To the light isotope of nitrogen medium, that is the 14N. Separated DNA using what? They have separated DNA using the cesium chloride density gradient centrifugation. So now I will explain this diagram which we have seen in earlier slide also. First what they did, they have cultured the E. coli in what? In heavy isotope of nitrogen. Okay. Now, what they did, they have now transferred this heavy nitrogen, the E. coli which they have grown in the culture of heavy nitrogen to what? To the light isotope of nitrogen, that is 14N. And when they have checked after generation and all, so after first generation we got to know that the replication occurs in semi-conservative form, that is one strand is having heavy isotope of nitrogen whereas the second strand is having light isotope of nitrogen. But if it was like conservative replication, what should be the answer? The answer should be like that one will remain, the one whole DNA will have this heavy isotope of nitrogen and the second DNA will have the light isotope of the nitrogen. But this doesn't occur. It occurs like the hybrid has formed. That's why we said that the DNA is semi-conservative in nature. After one generation in Michelson and Stahl experiment, DNA showed the other question says that after one generation in this experiment which we have studied in today's class, DNA showed what? They did show two light bands, two heavy bands, one hybrid band or one light band and one heavy band. Let's see. Answer is that after one generation in Michelson Stahl, DNA showed what? DNA showed the hybrid band. Why the single band of intermediate density came? Because we know that we contain two DNA which have what? Which have hybrid DNA. Ruled out conservative replication. So here why we got this only one band, one hybrid band? Because two hybrid has been formed. They didn't found any other like DNA which have only a heavy isotope or only light isotope. They both were hybrid and that's why they got the one hybrid band. Now, next question is the limitations of RNA as genetic material led to means the limitations of RNA, like we know that RNA has a limitation that it is very highly reactive and less stable. Why? Due to the presence of 2'OH group. So this limitation has led to what? As genetic material of DNA, as a if we will see that RNA as a genetic material. So this limitation of RNA as a genetic material led to what? Is it evolution of protein, evolution of DNA, evolution of lipid, or evolution of carbohydrate? So let's see the answer. Answer is evolution of DNA. Why? Because we know that RNA is very highly reactive and unstable. Therefore, DNA has to evolve through chemical modification. DNA provided what? More stable genetic material. What we have studied that DNA has what? DNA has this deoxyribose where there is no presence of OH group at 2'N. Where ribose we do have like that. Even thymine, okay, which is a pyrimidine specific to the DNA, giving it this more stability than what the uracil give to RNA. That's why the evolution of DNA happened. So what are the keynotes formed for today's class? First, if we talk about the RNA world, theory suggested life began with self-replicating RNA molecules. Means there has been theory that the life began with self-replicating RNA molecules. RNA can store information as well as catalyze the reactions. It predates DNA-based life. Then we talked about the semi-conservative replication. That what is semi-conservative replication? Each new DNA molecule contains what? One old and one new strand. Maintain genetic stability across generation. Then we have studied about Michelson and Stahl experiment, which used isotopes of nitrogen to prove what? The semi-conservative replication of DNA. Groundbreaking experiment using what? E. coli bacteria. And these are some keynotes of today's class. Then there are some interesting questions. So we have divided the interesting question in such a way that first is the critical thinking question, that you have to think in this question, that why was RNA's dual role as both genetic material and catalyst was crucial for what? Early life, yet ultimately leads to its replacement by DNA as genetic material. Then the application based question is, in the Michelson-Stahl experiment, why was the appearance of a hybrid brand in generation 1 crucial evidence against conservative replication? Then we have an analysis question in which we have to analyze that how does ribosomal RNA's role in protein synthesis support the RNA world hypothesis? Then we have to compare and contrast what key advantage did the evolution from RNA to DNA provide for organism, and how was this achieved? So these are some questions that you guys want to solve yourself. So thank you. So now we will start the DPP question for today's class. First question says us, which molecule is considered the first genetic material according to the RNA world hypothesis? So they are asking, according to this RNA world hypothesis, what was the first genetic material? And we know what it is. It is RNA only. Next question. The next question says, why is RNA considered less stable than DNA? Is it? Means why? The question is asking why RNA is less stable than DNA, and that's why they have this DNA has to evolve. First option is RNA lacks thymine. Second is RNA is single-stranded. Third is RNA is reactive and act as a catalyst. And fourth is RNA cannot store genetic information. So we know that RNA lacks thymine, and it is also one of the reasons it is less stable. RNA is single-stranded is also true, but the thing that why RNA is considered less stable is that RNA is reactive due to the presence of 2-OH group on its ribose sugar and act as what? Catalyst. That's why RNA cannot store genetic information. All options are right, but we have to see the question. What question is asking? And question is asking that why RNA is considered less stable than DNA. So let's save and next. Next question says, which property of DNA contributes to its stability compared to the RNA? So they are saying that which property of now DNA contributes to its stability. Why DNA? What property does DNA possesses that it has more stable structure, then it has more stability than the RNA? First, is it the presence of uracil? Second, double-stranded structure. Third, ribose sugar. And fourth, catalytic activity. So we know that the presence of uracil, ribose sugar and catalytic activity, everything implies to what? It's implying to RNA. So here the answer that why DNA is act as is more stable, has stability, is because of its double-stranded structure. Now, question number 4 says what? Question number 4 says, what critical function did RNA perform in early life forms according to RNA world hypothesis? So, they are just again asking, the question is same kind of same when you will compare it to the first question, but let's see that what was the RNA world hypothesis? In this RNA world hypothesis, this is that RNA perform very important function in early life forms, and what are those? So the options are, is it energy storage, is it structural support, is it catalysis and genetic information storage, or it is membrane formation? So we know that it is catalysis and genetic information storage. Next and last question. So this question says, which feature of RNA supports its role as a catalyst in biochemical reaction? So they are asking us, what is the feature, which feature of this RNA supporting its role as catalyst in any biological reaction? This catalyst I have told that anything that is going to speed up the reaction. Is it the presence of deoxyribose? Is it the ability to form complex three-dimensional structure? Is it its double-stranded helix, or is it its phosphodiester bond? Know that this presence of deoxyribose and double-stranded helix, this is some functions of, this is features of what? It's the feature of DNA. This RNA, this is single-stranded RNA, what they can do, they can form these three-dimensional complexes, okay, and this supports its role as a catalyst in biochemical reaction. So the answer is option number second, that is ability to perform complex three-dimensional structure. Let's save it. Yeah, it got saved. Let's submit the questions, answers, and let's see how much we have done correct. So all of the answers are correct. This is all for today's class.